Everyone, this is Martin from Pakistan, and you're watching my YouTube channel Insani Ittihad, which aims to invoke a little bit of humanity in all of us through awareness and understanding. So, I had the opportunity to watch a few reports on BBC in regards to the deceased late journalist of Al Jazeera. And there are some clashes or some some Palestinian stunts happening while the body was carried out of the hospital and for burial, I guess. First and foremost, it was very saddening to see the commentary from BBC, and I must say, Brits, Scots, as in Scottish people, and Irish people. These three people should be the last people on this planet Earth to comment or criticize Israel, because first and foremost, this conflict of Israel-Palestine is actually because of the lack of the ability to do justice and stand up for both people's rights, that is Arab people's rights and Jewish people's rights. It was the British mandate to create two-state solution, one Israel for the Jewish people, a Jewish state, and one which they actually created, which was Jordan for the Palestinian people. Anyway, so they didn't have the guts and morals to do justice and give the Jewish people their share of land in terms of Belfast declaration of two-state solution. Setting that aside, and also the fact that the news presenter was a Hindu pagan, Rita Chakrabarti, to be very specific, also pissed me off. This nexus between the pagans and the Arab Muslims and then the Arab Christians is such a deadly combination of against the Jewish people, is just like the ultimate evil of all time, which was of course can be seen in the World War II, the entire nexus of these three communities, Arabs, Christians, and Hindus, coming up with the Nazi ideology and whatnot. Anyway, moving on. First and foremost, there is a Palestinian reporter who is a colleague of Mrs. or Miss Shireen. He is saying that he gave a short interview in which he says the woman actually took off her helmet and her press jacket, which is actually a bulletproof jacket. And then we see her body wearing both the helmet and the bulletproof jacket, which has press written all in front of it. So she was wearing it, and then he says a Israeli sniper actually killed her. Now I'm just wondering, Jenin is a predominantly Palestinian town. So where and on which building, which all the buildings would probably be inhabited by Palestinian, either Muslims or Christians. So a Palestinian sniper would just go onto the top of those buildings and then hit this woman who is wearing a jacket written press on it. And meanwhile, the same IDF, or the police, actually police was the main operator who was carrying out this operation, maybe IDF and police both, but even if it was IDF, just a few days ago when these Palestinians manslaughtered with an axe, not a knife, with an axe, they brutally murdered 3 innocent unarmed, very, very religious Jews in the middle of the night. They killed them, and then they sneaked into this jungle and they hid there for I think 2 or 3 days. And these police, the same IDF police or the Israeli police or the IDF or security forces, the Israeli security forces caught these two manslaughtering butchers and terrorists, Muslim, Palestinian, Arab terrorists. They catch them and they offer them cigarettes. Actually, one of the widow of the victim actually raised this voice that they didn't even slap those murderers who murdered our husbands or my husband so brutally, while he is just a citizen. He has nothing to. I think they're a very orthodox Jewish, so they don't even serve in the IDF or the security forces. And here our security forces, the Israeli security forces, are actually giving them cigarettes and treating them very nicely. So we have this, ironically, a very strange security forces of Israel, which happens to be very, very nice with the terrorists who brutally murder their people, as in Israeli people. And all of a sudden they find this helmet wearing and bulletproof jacket wearing journalist of Al Jazeera, and a press is all written in front of her, and they put up a guy on a building which is predominantly, actually fully housed by Palestinian Muslims or Christians or both, and they place their personnel over there, a sniper guy with a sniper gun, and then he miraculously shoots this Palestinian Al Jazeera journalist while she's wearing a helmet. And one of her colleagues says that she gets a bullet from her ear, like from here. So a sniper has to be very, very far away. And look at the precision of this sniper personnel. I mean, what a training. I mean, with a helmet, and he finds this little, they're puffed up. The jackets are puffed up, and the helmet is there, and then he just found a shot. I mean, seriously, she is shot by someone very, very close to her, and she was standing with the Palestinians armed personnel, terrorists, who were actually firing bullets at the Israeli security forces. So she is hit by a close range person who was firing on the other side, and she was standing either beside him or in front of him, and with a close range. Any stupid person would actually understand that. And I don't understand how BBC is just full of this hate and anti-Semitic attitude, which British people, Irish people, and Scottish people happen to have in them just because they're Catholic, or I don't know what is the reason. And then again, I mean, as being a daughter of somebody who was from a Christian faith and converted after marrying my father, I actually know how good these Arab or Muslim men treat convert Christian women. And she was not even a convert woman, she was a Christian Orthodox woman. I mean, seriously, just to prove that you are more of a victim, you kill this journalist and then put the blame on these Israeli security forces. It's such a shame. And the entire world falls for this pathetic lie. And then you go on and make a show of, oh, these Israeli security forces are so bad, they are even insulting the corpses or whatever. Why did you you were allowed to go to the church, do the last rituals and everything? Why did you have to take this whole thing as a procession or as a protest? Why do you have to first the Palestinian kill this poor woman and do injustice to her Christian family, and then you make it an Orthodox Christian versus Israeli Jewish security forces, and then you disrespect her corpse by roaming around or making it or marching around for the sake of what this Palestinian cause. You were Israeli security forces went to Jenin to catch terrorists. If there are no terrorists or there were no exchange of fires, why that what was she covering there? And if it was all about putting snipers there, then we can, I mean, the IDF and the police can just put snipers all over the place and kill those terrorists. Why do we have to go inside those, you know, buildings and risk? In fact, there was this one security personnel, a police officer, who died actually from these gunfires. Why don't you just put all sniper shooters all over the Jenin area, and just whenever you see a person with a axe or knife or a gun, they just put a bullet in his head? I mean, there is a limit. There is a limit to lies. There is a limit to anti-Semitism. And in this electronic and, you know, this social media, this video, this whole thing way, I mean, I don't understand how and from where do you these Palestinian sympathizers and these Palestinians get these weird ideas that they can, you know, lie and, you know, just do this fake propaganda, and the entire world actually falls for these lies and stupid ideologies, the stupid, you know, propagandas. A poor little Palestinian girl was killed by IDF, really, as if they were there looking for Miss Shireen to, you know, put a bullet in her head. I mean, really? And they were like very, very nice to those terrorists who actually killed 3 Jewish people. 3 religious Jewish unarmed civilians. And that's not the, I mean, and the murder itself with an axe was very, very brutal. That is not being discussed in the international media, that, you know, these 3 men were fathers to 5, 10, 16 children. 16 Jewish children have been orphaned by those 2 terrorists. 3 women have been widowed. People in the world, people are not talking about that. They're talking about Shireen, who is murdered by her own people, the Palestinian Muslim terrorists. Shocking.